is it?
Stadt für alle. Exactly, alle. Perfect.
Stadt für alle.
Stadt für alle. Yeah.
Stadt für alle.
City for all. Yeah.
What's the process behind your images, or is there a process, or is it just way more intuitive?
It's funny, like, because there's no real recipe for me, I think, in that way, but there's intuition is definitely one big word for me. For example, and now with Stadt für alle, with the new book, you know, all these building sites and all that really horrid architecture, I think, and the symbol of power, I think, that they are to me, that also makes me want to work with that, you know, and photograph that or think about that. I also think in everyday conversations there's subtle kind of symbols of power structures, you know, which I find really interesting, and also which I oftentimes wouldn't think about them when I was younger, but then now, having grown up a bit more, I question that and also think
I think that's what makes them so dangerous, the fact that it's so easy to not notice them.
Yeah, and it's the same when it's on a micro scale, so on a small scale that happens, but also in really large contexts that happens. So I think also from those little things you can really paint a much bigger picture.
So obviously a lot of your work deals with class differentiation and people from less financially secure backgrounds. Yeah. I was wondering how you feel about the fact that for you to make a living, people have to buy your artwork. Yeah. Usually the people who buy it are people from completely opposite backgrounds.
It's a tough one. It's a really tough one also because, you know, for example, with Stadt für alle, I always had in mind that, you know, the buildings that I display are being built by people who would buy my work. You know, that could really be a possibility, and I'm aware of that. I think I comply in that in a way. I have to comply in that in a way to a certain degree. But then on the other hand, you know, also, not because you're wealthy, you're a bad person. That doesn't...
Yeah, it works both ways.
Not at all. It works absolutely both ways. So who am I to judge?
Incorporating the text with the image, that was something you just did in the recent book, wasn't it?
Yeah, so in the previous publication, so pictures and words, the text and the images were still separate. However, for Stadt für alle, I kind of had more desire to experiment also, and to destroy that image of a beautiful, that kind of virtual image of a beautiful picture, and like really plan to put text on top of that. Then obviously at the end of the book there's this whole chapter where it's only text, which again, just felt really good and right to me also, to give that space to the writing again, to justify its place, to put it a test also, you know. That's another thing for me. I'm not so convinced that it's that good actually, but it's a matter of testing out things, also not being too sure, too convinced, too certain about things, you know. I still have many doubts about my own work, but I display those doubts also in a way and test those grounds, and I think that's also part of my practice, or should be part of our practice in general, I think, to test out new grounds.